missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I have a color correction for you guys. So this client found me and she wanted to do a full transformation. Her goal is to get on the lighter side, something that is going to give her a less harsh of a grow out. She's been doing her own base color for years at home, so her base color is pretty dark and solid compared to where her roots are at and how much gray she naturally has. A little bit of her hair texture is it's on the finer side, so I want to do something very gentle on her hair and try to get rid of a lot of this pigment. So I'm going to prep her hair with some K18 to start off with, and this is pretty much the K18 mister. This just kind of keeps the hair strong, kind of works like a bonder before any type of lightening service, and you do leave it in for about 4 minutes before doing any type of lightening service. And I am putting this on before I do any lightening and color remover. So right after this, we're gonna leave this on for about 4 minutes, and I am gonna go in with the color remover that I'm gonna be using today to try and strip out her permanent color that's in her hair before we do any real bleaching on the hair. So today I'm going to be using the Schwarzkopf color remover. I've showed it in my other videos before. I just get this at like my Cosmoprof, and I mixed it with 10 volume. So I'm going in, and I believe the box, it's like a white box. It comes with like a powder and like a kind of like a gel consistency, and then you mix that with developer. So I've mixed mine with 10 volume just to kind of strip out and get some of this color out. So when looking at this particular client's gray pattern, I noticed that she has more gray around her face, and as you get closer towards the back here where I'm starting in the nape, it's a little less gray. So she has more dark hair that is like more of her natural color. So since she has more of her dark hair in the back, when she applies that base color at home or any type of permanent color on her hair, it's gonna stay the strongest on the hairs that are not as white. So if you put permanent color or color hair that has more grays in it, sometimes that color doesn't fully stay. It kind of fades a little bit faster. So essentially over time that base color could get a little lighter. So what happened here was, even though she did the same base color all over, you can see since she has gray closer around her face and just more white hair as you get towards the top, she is a lot lighter than she is back here, because in the back she doesn't have as much gray. So the color really hasn't faded too much in the back here. So this is where it's going to be more problematic essentially, because back here it is a lot darker than it is in the front. I would say the back is probably a true level to whatever level she's been using on her roots. I would assume she's using like a level 6 or 5 on her roots, and you can see in the front it has gotten a lot lighter. It looks a lot faded, and I believe it's because she has more gray right around the front of her face. Sometimes though that isn't always the case. Like my last client, she had darker pieces around her face because she would saturate those areas a little bit more. So I feel like it really varies on the client. So depending on wherever the hair is the darkest is where I start applying that color remover. And as I'm applying this color remover, I'm going in and trying to just really saturate the whole hair and staying away from any virgin hair, because since this is a color remover, all I really need it for is to really just lift out the permanent color that's in her hair. It is strong enough to lift virgin hair, so that is why I try to kind of stay off and just feather up to where her virgin roots are. So one of the main reasons why I feel like using a color remover has been super beneficial for doing corrections like this is because it's a lot more gentle on the hair than lightener would be. So especially on hair that is a little bit on the more fragile side or a little bit on the finer side, you want to be extra careful. So that's why I've used a really low volume on her, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it and for sure just feel out her hair. And you'll notice that every step of the way throughout this whole process I am adding in like bonders and doing pre-treatments to just ensure that her hair feels really healthy throughout this whole process, because again, when you're stripping out color or like lightening the hair, it can put stress on the hair and you will need intensive aftercare afterwards. Like your hair will feel dry, so you need to take care of it with all of the products that your stylist or whatever is recommended to keep your hair moisturized as it kind of heals itself from this process. So after I was done applying the color remover, this is kind of what it looked like. It looks really light, but you'll see later as I rinse it off, it's really not that light. I believe since the product is more on the white side, it did appear that the hair was at a level 7, but when I washed it off, everything was closer to like a level 6, I would say. But it was definitely lifting out that permanent color more than I thought it would, even though I used a really low volume. I think I probably left this on her hair for maybe like about 30 minutes or so, and I just kept checking like every 10 minutes to make sure everything was okay. This is what the color looked like after I pretty much like rinsed it all out and blow dried it. You can see most of it is like a level 6, some of it is like a level 7, but honestly very happy with how light it got her. This is going to make everything a lot easier, and her hair felt really good after this. It didn't feel like fragile or anything, it felt the same. So after this whole process, I went in ahead and started to lighten her with some cream bleach. So if you guys have been watching my videos, you know that I love using like a lot of different lighteners for different things. So for this particular transformation, since her hair is on the finer side and it has a bit of texture to it, I want it to be extra careful, so that is why I'm using cream bleach. For this one, I'm using the Pulp Bright cream bleach, and I just mixed it. I have a bowl of 6 volume, and then I have a bowl of 10 volume. So right now, since the back part right underneath her hair here, she has the least amount of grays, this is where it was the darkest. So right now I'm just going in and hitting those really dark patches within the mids and ends area with that 10 volume, just to kind of give it a head start to catch up to everything else, because I know everything else is going to lift a little bit faster since it did lighten up a little bit more. So I'm just going in and really hitting those areas that look more so like a true level 6, just to kind of help catch it up. And I have the other like 2 different levels because I'm going to be hitting depending on what level each side lifted to. So if I come across a patch that is like a level 6 or below, or just on the darker side, I'm going to hit that with the 10 volume. And then if I see any areas that look like more like a level 7, I'm going to hit that with some 6 volume. And as I'm doing this too, after I finish going through the mids and ends, I will be going in and hitting her root with the 6 volume. So like I said before, I am using 2 different developers, and this one can be a little bit tricky. I feel like using different developers, you really need to know how fast you are and what exactly the lightener, like the strength of it is, to determine what volume you're going to use, and to hit the areas as quickly as possible to kind of get it as even as possible. So essentially I'm trying to even out the mids and ends right now. So after I've gone in with that stronger developer, I'm going in with the weaker developer to hit the pieces that are a little bit lighter with that 6 volume. And I opted to choose to lighten it with 6 volume because I know her virgin roots are going to lift very quickly because they are virgin and they have the heat zone from her scalp that is also going to help it lift up. So I just needed something a little bit stronger on the areas that didn't lift as well with the color remover. And as I'm going through this whole process, I always make sure that my clients are comfortable. I normally will give them a few minutes after doing a few test runs in the back on the scalp because lightener can irritate the scalp a lot. So I like to make sure that my clients are fully comfortable before applying it all over the head. So if you're a client of mine and I bleached out your scalp before, I usually will ask you if your scalp is okay or if you feel any irritation. Like a little tingling and a little itchiness is normal, but if it's like intensely burning or like super itchy, sometimes it's not safe to proceed with the whole process, and sometimes you just gotta wash it out because that means you're just having like an allergic reaction, which totally can happen. So it's always good to make sure that your clients are comfortable during the process and to check in with them, making sure that their scalp is okay while doing a correction like this. So I'm pretty much doing the same thing on the front side. I'm trying to work a bit quick here and just going in and lighten everything, and I'm trying to just saturate everything and get everything as even as possible. I already kind of know that the root is going to lift a lot quicker, so that's why I use such a low volume on the root. And I had a feeling that the ends would be more stubborn just because she had that previous permanent color on the ends, and they are just a lot warmer. So anything that's been color treated just is always more difficult to lighten than virgin hair. So we're just going to keep an eye on it, and as everything is pretty much processing, I do check in and make sure like if there's any spots that I need to resaturate with fresh lightener, because fresh lightener is always going to be stronger than old lightener. So if I see any spots that are a little warmer than the rest, or I feel like it's not lifting as even as I want it to, I do go in and resaturate those areas with fresh lightener to kind of give it a little more of a push to help it even out. And once I'm done applying everything, I just let it sit at like room temperature. I don't put her under any heat or anything, but I do make sure that the lightener on her that has been applied doesn't dry out. So just making sure that it stays moist, because if the lightener does start to like dry out, it does start to lose its strength and stop working. So it's really important to make sure and just keep checking in on this as it's processing. So at a certain point, I did take her back to the bowls because I felt like some of the ends in the back where it was a lot darker wasn't lifting anymore. So I did go ahead and rinse the ends a little bit and reapply some fresh lightener, but also making sure that it could totally take that. By doing so, I do rinse it out and just kind of like test out the elasticity of the hair and making sure that everything was good, and it totally felt fine, like the ends. So as the front finished processing, I did apply a little bit of a fresh lightener to kind of even out the rest of the back with the front. Okay, so now I'm just going in with my toner. You can see that when her roots pretty much reached like a level 9, it was ready to be rinsed, and I rinsed everything out even though the mids and ends were a little bit darker, but we're gonna level and even all that out with a toner. So what I'm toning her with is the Pulp-Right Liquid Demis, and I'm starting off, since the mids and ends are warmer and didn't lift as light, I'm gonna drop her shadow root to kind of be slightly darker than the color that I'm gonna be applying to the mids and ends, just so that it gives a nice gradient and looks really natural on her. So for the root, I'm using 6-3, which is a level 6 gold. I opted to use a level 6 gold because I wanted to add a little bit warmth into her root shadow, since the mids and ends lifted to like a level 7, I would say. And then after applying her root shadow, I'm going in with 8-2 and 8-11. So 8-2 is a level 8 violet, and majority of this formula has 8-2, and just like a little, maybe like a quarter of the formula has 8-11, which is a level 8 double ash. So I felt like using a violet and a double ash would help cancel out the orange in her hair, and try to get it as light and ashy as possible with what she has going on. So I like to apply the lighter formula on the mids first and then kind of brush it down towards the ends. And I did leave out the whole hairline because since the hairline is a bit finer than the rest of the hair, those hairs are going to tone extremely fast. So I always save the hairline and like an inch from the hairline for last. And I know when to apply the hairline toner when I feel like the back toner is ready and ready to like be rinsed out completely. Alrighty guys, so here is her finished look. She was so happy with how light she was able to get considering how dark of a base color she had been putting on her hair, and this is definitely going to be giving her a softer grow out as her grays come in. The only thing I would mention was that her hair color will start to fade on the warmer side because you guys saw how light she was able to get with the color remover and lightening her very gently, and I opted to do it very slow just considering her texture of her hair. I really wanted to make sure that her hair stayed super healthy during this whole process, and of course I gave her the full list of products of things and regimen that she should be doing at home in between visits. Now, these type of corrections are definitely a work in progress. Her goal eventually is to get lighter, but in order to do so, she's going to have to use the products that I recommend and make sure that her hair stays moisturized. And for her next appointment when she comes in, I'll be able to feel her hair and see if it's going to be okay to relighten the ends or if she's going to have to wait a little bit. So if a client ever comes in and their hair feels really dry, I normally will tell them that we can't lighten up their ends and they'll have to wait until their hair starts to feel better, and I'll just try and keep recommending products to get it to that point. And ever so, if a client is never really able to get there just because their hair is just pretty dry and just doesn't seem like it'll be able to take that second lightening session, then I normally will tell them that they might have to just grow out their hair and just do treatments in between, and just work with what they have considering what they came in with and their color history. But of course I always do let my clients know that that is a possibility during consultations, that during this process it is possible that your hair can't take all of it and that they might have to grow it out or just maintain whatever they're lifted to. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. I love sharing these type of transformations to kind of give you guys a visualization of what things realistically look like with transformations like these. But yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.